Greetings and salutations. You've arrived at After Dark with Super Marcey.
Welcome back to After Dark with Super Marcey, an adults only podcast. And I'm your host, Super Marcey, and that voice is only for the intro. Welcome back, everybody. I'm glad that, I'm glad to be back, and I'm glad that our listeners, hopefully you're all back too. This episode has been in the works for what feels like 6 months, and we're finally here to talk about these two wonderful movies. It's the Lethal Ladies double feature of Lady Battle Cop and Lady Terminator. And I am joined by 3 returning guests, but I believe this is the first time the 4 of us have recorded together at the same time, so it is very exciting. First up, I'll introduce my brother from another mother. He is the terrible Australian. He is Bede Jermyn. Hello, Bede. How you going?
I'm good, thanks, Marcy. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Glad and happy to be here doing this podcast.
Indeed. I'm very excited at the moment, Marcy, because don't ask me why. I'm kind of getting into rip-off movies at the moment. And so when you asked me to come on this podcast and talk about these two in particular, I was definitely down for it, even though at the time I had not seen neither of these films. But I have a lot to say about both these films once we get into the discussion.
Yes, this is quite a double. And we do have an expert in double features who was actually my first guest on this show when it launched to the public. So welcome back, Schlock and Awe's Lindsay Wilkins. Hello, welcome back.
Hello, Marcy. I'm loving your wonderful midnight AM voice. It's very sexy.
You've embarrassed me now. I'm blushing. Oh, God. We're off the rails already.
Oh, no, we are very off the rails. Now I'm trying to deepen my voice more than yours, and it's not going to go well. But thank you very much for having me on for this wild double.
Thank you so much for joining. And last but not least whatsoever, he is the wonderful host of the Addicts Podcast. Please welcome Scott Wiley to the show once again.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, we're not doing striptease this time. This one actually has some action in one of these films.
There's a bit more action than striptease in these films, but one maybe more than the other. I don't know.
Well, to be fair though, Marcy, I mean, striptease does have action, just not that type of action.
This is going to go well, I can tell.
This is a great podcast.
We are already on track, and it's fantastic.
It's amazing. This is what happens when the 4 of us have finally come together.
Exactly.
Oh boy. But yes, we have quite the double feature, and we'll be starting off the proceedings by talking about Lady Battle Cop.
おめでとう、カオルさん。
ありがとう。
おめでとう。
So Lady Battle Cop was a film I just randomly stumbled upon for, I think it was June exploitation 2 years ago.
Yes.
I honestly, it might have been 90s action or something. I can't remember what the prompt was, but I'm looking at this movie title, this cover, and I'm like, so this looks like kind of maybe a RoboCop riff or something. And it is honestly one of the strangest movies I've ever seen. The brief plot synopsis from IMDb is champion tennis player, and I'm not going to be able to pronounce the name properly. Is it Karu or Koshiba? I'm not quite sure if I said that right.
I would say Kairu Okashiba, yeah.
So champion tennis player, blah blah blah. Mortally wounded by terrorists from the mysterious cartel organization, is revived as the cyborg battle cop, who seeks revenge against her assailants and their superiors. That doesn't even really scratch the surface, but oh boy. I look, I'll just say my quick thoughts. I was kind of fascinated by this film. It sort of does have the RoboCop elements, but it definitely has other things going on. But I was very fascinated by the role of the tennis stuff in this film. And I was blown away by the costume outfit thing that the Lady Battle Cop wears, as it has high heels on it. And what can one say about that?
Well, if you're going to be a lady battle cop, you might as well dress for the role actually have the high heels and the earrings and the little skirt she has in her robot thing. She almost looks like she's coming out of the Jetsons.
Yes, that's actually a really good comparison. It's kind of fascinating in this weird way, but Scott, you might have a bit to say about this. So what are your thoughts on Lady Battle Cop?
I didn't know if you wanted me to go first or last, because I fear everyone else can just take 5 minutes now. You're 100% right in that it is RoboCop-esque, but I want to kind of spend 5 minutes to give a bit of background to this for you, because although this isn't officially part of the series, in Japan, there was obviously many series where there are costume superheroes saving the day. And one derivative of them that sadly died in 97 was called Metal Heroes. And they basically are exactly what Lady Battle Cop is. They're this costume superheroes, but they look much more heavily armored and actually look the part, and tended to skew towards an older audience instead of being for kids. Now, the original Metal Hero was Space Sheriff Gavin, and he was an intergalactic cop dressed in silver and went around saving the day. And if that sounds familiar, it should. It's because his visual design inspired RoboCop. Yes. The person that created RoboCop has been on record as saying Gavin is where he got a lot of his inspiration from. But as Metal Heroes went on, they got experimental in what they would do, and they went all over the place. But one of the series that they did around about the same time was Mobile Robot Hero Jaiban, and that was airing when this film was being made, and that is about a cyborg cop, and it's basically Japan's RoboCop. And someone just had the very clever idea to go, hey, what if we just did that but made it a girl? And to emphasize how similar they are, most of the people that worked on this film worked on that television show, including the director, who directed about 17 episodes of that television show. So yes, it is kind of Japan's RoboCop, but I'd argue that RoboCop was so inspired by Japan, it was almost like them taking it back and going, yeah, we can do that too. But I agree with you that there's so much more random stuff going on in that film.
There really is. And this is kind of why I kind of asked you first, because I knew you'd know this little bit of backstory. Because as I was very fascinated with this weird movie, I was reading up into it and kind of found out a bit about what you've just said. And I'm like, so it's kind of a ripoff of a ripoff of a ripoff. And it's, I mean, no matter which way you look at it, it's ripping off something. But then this movie just has this whole other thing. Like, at first, I guess depending on what version you watch, there's a montage that surrounds tennis, and I think one of the lyrics is like "Women are made for tennis." So I don't know if this is meant to be a feminist movie or what's going on there. But then it just takes this weird turn as these like this cartel organization who's basically running everything. They have like these mutant, I don't know, henchmen things, and it just kind of goes a bit insane. Bede, I want to know some of your thoughts about this movie.
Well, when you sent me your Judesploitation list, Marcy, for that year when you put this film on there, I was very intrigued because I thought I went deep with a lot of my picks because you went even further with the obscurity of some of these movies.
Yes.
And then when you had 90s action and I saw Lady Battle Cop, I was like, well, wait, what? And then you sent me a picture of the DVD cover and I was like, what is this? And of course, you reading your review, it's like, oh, it's basically like Japan's rip-off of RoboCop, but with a woman in the lead role. And you told me about this a lot. And then when I finally watched it in prep for this show, I got to say, like, I'm kind of mixed on it overall. Like, it is a very silly and enjoyable film, but it does get a little dry in spots and all that. And for a movie that says that she's out for revenge and becomes this lady battle cop, but the thing is, though, she isn't actually a robot.
No.
It's actually the suit. So she's not like, in the film RoboCop where, she's badly injured to the point where her scientist boyfriend makes her into a robot to save her. It's like, oh, he's just been developing a robot suit and she just uses that to take revenge on all the guys that murdered her scientist boyfriend.
And I'm assuming that... Yeah, I was going to say, I'm assuming Scott's going to know this.
No. I was just going to add, like, there's one scene where if you blink it, you'll miss it, that, like, she does have a cybernetic body now, but they, go out of their way to never actually, show it, explain it. Like, there's one shot where she takes off the armor and you can see on her side and her back, she's got, metal parts sticking out of her back and integrate into her skin, but that's it. It's like she, compared to RoboCop, she's a really low grade cyborg. It's like she could totally still live as a normal person once she takes the suit off,
which she does. She
just the battle is just beginning.
But I was going to ask, I'm like, is that something to do with the other stuff that this is based on, or are they like actual cyborgs, not just with a suit?
I think that she's supposed to be a cyborg without the suit because, they had to save her life, whatever weird procedure that they did. But I also can't help if there's an element of they like the fact that she can get in and out of the suit to transform, which adds to the whole part of the transforming hero stuff. But also, let's be upfront about this. This is Japan making this film. They also wanted to leave in a way for the sexy woman to still be the sexy woman.
With high heels in the suit.
No, I mean,
exactly.
When Scott, who is such an expert in Japanese TV, especially Japanese superheroes, that's lack of a better term, sorry, showing my terrible knowledge, it was like, oh, of course, this whole thing looks like an anime, and you're right, because she's not really a cyborg because she has to transform into the hero, and I've just got Sailor Moon in my head now.
Yes.
So,
yep.
So it's very much like that. It's got that very kind of element to it, and it makes sense, of course, that RoboCop would take from a Japanese property because the whole design of RoboCop looks Japanese, but you don't know that until someone points it out. It's like Darth Vader saying, "Well, he's based on a samurai look," and you're like, "Oh yeah, of course. Why didn't I see that before?" So it's the whole movie is like that. The whole movie does feel like an anime. I mean, I've seen it twice, and there are still plot points where I'm like going, "Wait, but that doesn't make sense. Who is the other robot guy? Who's the what's going on?" Yeah, I mean, okay, so there's a big portion of her playing it being a tennis player, which is obviously her day job and her alias. And then it's like, wait, I thought the boyfriend died. No, I'm just mixing that up with the other guy. I have no idea what's happening in this movie. So I think I've just got to learn to watch it and just enjoy the facade. Like
I feel like I can help
felt
some of
that.
your confusion.
Yes.
Because like the other guy wasn't a robot, which because Marcy called him a mutant, you called him a robot. He's an Esper. So he's basically he's just psychic. Like that's the explanation for all of his abilities.
That's it, because there was a
He's
whole
He's just fixing his butt for most of the time, and I was very confused as to what he was.
That's
By
where
the
his
way, I
powers
did see
come from, the clenching of the butt. I'm
So
assuming.
Yes.
it's not
Like
only
Van
that.
Damme.
Well, that's the thing, though, and that's not what. That's how we're introduced to him, because like the very first scene we see him is literally in silhouette with his back turned, showing off his ass, and he's like glistening with so much oil that he's like flexing and going "Ugh," and everything like that. And of course, the character's name is Amadeus, and I made sure to remember that because every time he shows up, he just steals the whole movie. And
A little
of course,
bit.
and whenever he uses his psychic powers, like his head starts pulsing, and his veins start throbbing, and his head gets larger. And I'm like, what movie am I watching right now? It's like RoboCop meets Akira. What's going on?
It really is. It's very Akira, this movie, but they didn't have the money to do it properly. But it's got so many Akira vibes going on in it.
It's even set in Neo Tokyo.
It is. Yes, because I only discovered that Neo Tokyo is a thing that's carried on through other things. I don't know if they're connected to it, to Akira or what, but I was like, oh, I need to watch these movies.
I don't think it's connected. I think it just became the universal setting for we have a sci-fi show, but it's still Japan, but we don't want it to be real Japan. So anything that happens, we can just do what we like. And it's Neo Japan, it's Neo Tokyo. Yeah, cool, we'll go with it. I think became the standard for a lot of these types of things.
It's a really good standard, to be fair.
Absolutely. So I think we can establish this is a hell of a weird movie. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want the outfit. I kind of want this badass suit with high heels, earrings, and all the rest. But I mean, we don't necessarily need to rate the movie or anything like that. But I think you're right, Bede. There are some dry bits in the film, but all the craziness, all the stuff that doesn't make sense just makes the movie for me. And I will forever find these kinds of films that are kind of ripping off or taking inspiration from other things, like how that kind of forms into its own weird thing. And I like that it's kind of an example of it does borrow from things, but it's still its own weird thing with its own laws. I don't know what's going on half the time. Somehow tennis is really important if you want to be a battle cop, but I find it weirdly entertaining.
And also yachts, Marcy, let's not forget. There's also yachts in this movie.
Why? I don't know.
Look, she's a lady of leisure. A lady of leisure goes on yachts and plays tennis, semi-professional. So that is her lifestyle, and she has the perfect lifestyle until she is viciously attacked and her boyfriend is murdered. I still don't know what the ultimate plan of this cartel, Yakuza, army thing is. It's a hell of an opening, though. It's a really amazing opening of these guys just coming into a nightclub and just killing everyone. But
definitely.
Yeah.
I will say as well, like I love the design of Battle Cop itself, but I did actually make a note going, why does she have an earring? That just makes even for this sort of stuff, that just sort of left me going, what? But what I really like is as the film goes on, the heels become stabilizers for her wrist-mounted rocket launchers, and the earring becomes a weapon. And it's like all these crazy things that you're sort of sat there going, why are you designed that way? Oh, that's why you're designed that way. Okay, I take it back. I love this so much.
It becomes practical later when you find out what it is. It's kind of cool. That's why I want the outfit, because then it'll actually be useful for not just looking cool, I think.
Yeah. The only thing that did annoy me is everyone in this film is amazing at shooting her gun away from her in almost every single fight scene she has, except the last one. And after like the fourth or fifth time, I'm sort of going, you're supposed to be this advanced killing machine, yet every Western cowboy would beat you in a fight.
Really is. She loses a lot of fights. She is not particularly good until the end, which is a learning process, but you don't actually see her learn. It's just, oh, she lost her gun again. Oh, she lost her gun again.
Yep.
She's the bimbo lady battle cop.
But I will say I do like the way that the way they set up the final confrontation between her and the Esper, and she kills him with the cannon that had kind of been her kryptonite all the way through the film, and she turned that around on him. I thought that was a nice touch. Plus, we get a very anime death sequence where it just literally turns into animation for like 5 seconds.
Yes. It's kind of wild. Like, I did not expect any of this when I sat down to watch this movie for the first time. Like, no way. I don't remember if I even like read much about the plot. So when the whole tennis thing is in there, I'm like, what is this?
I accepted the tennis plot because she's a lady and the movie really wants to know that she's a lady, even when, yes, everything is practical, but it really wants to know she's a lady. What's a really lady form of physical activity? Tennis. So I kind of accepted that. It was sort of more when the SB was like introduced and some of the random stuff the bad guys was doing. That's when I was like going, hang on a second, wait, what? But then I just sort of realized, oh, this is all chaos until the end. It's got an anime feel. I might as well just sort of go with it. Yeah,
it's wild. It goes from points that I was like, I'm not expecting any of this, and that kind of makes it a perfect movie for me in a way.
I do like the parallels that they made to the original RoboCop, though, with some of the plot points. Like you say, it's totally different, but they have these little reference points, like her little thumbs up being the equivalent of Murphy spinning the gun, and just little bits like that all throughout the film that sort of made me just chuckle and go, yeah, this is a deliberate ripoff. You can't even pretend that it's just an accident. It's like you're literally referencing the material, which is a comment I'm going to say again in a bit, but you know.
Oh yeah. I feel the other one is more blatant about it, but this one is it's a little bit more subtle, but it is very blatant. But it's only subtle when you're comparing it to Lady Terminator, which is just going, oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're doing here. Like multiple movies, not just the main one.
I'm thinking we're gonna have a bit more to say about Lady Terminator. But yeah, before we wrap up on Lady Battle Cop, my final thoughts are this is a weird movie. You should see it if you haven't already. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to add before the next one?
Not specifically, just to say it's not weird by tokusatsu standards. There's way weirder out there, but of its own, it's just sort of average, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, it's got a few good scenes. I mean, there's a car chase that I thought was really cool, but yeah, if you're comparing it to like Tokyo Gore Police or the Meatball one, whatever, I can't remember that. Sorry, blanking. And a few other Japanese movies. Even House. This is like fine, but it's got more quirk, I would say, than weirdness, and a little bit dry here and there, but it's still worth a watch because especially if you want to sort of introduce yourself into something that's very Japanese, then this feels very Japanese in terms of the things that it's pulling from.
Yeah, I think quirk is the right word. Yeah. Sorry, Scott.
No, it's all right. It's just Lindsay just said something that made me sort of think. The one thing I will say, since we're segueing in a minute, is this film at least cast people that can act and gave emotion when delivering dialogue, which immediately puts it above the film we're about to talk about.
How dare you, Scott? How dare you? I'm an anthropologist.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Bede, did you have any last words to add?
Well, I guess pretty much everything that both Lindsay and Scott had just said, I do agree with. I think when I'm sitting down to watching it, I kind of was expecting a lot more craziness, given that it's, a Japanese ripoff of RoboCop. And, in some ways it does deliver on that, but other ways, like I said before, it can get very dry. So I was kind of expecting kind of a little bit more insanity, which I will admit kind of disappointed me a little bit about the film, even though it is still pretty watchable. And I think if people are interested in rip-off cinema, they should definitely give it a watch. But luckily I watched this one first because, boy, did the next movie we're going to talk about really deliver on that front of craziness.
Oh boy. All right, everybody, prepare yourselves. The second film in this Lethal Ladies double is Lady Terminator.
Sometimes the past should be left to memory, to gather dust within the covers of recorded time.
In 100 years, I'll have my revenge on your great-granddaughter.
Whoever finds the secret of the South Sea Queen will live in great danger of her soul.
Oh, yes, I will.
But how was she to know? Meet Tanya, an American anthropologist who travels to Indonesia in search of truth.
The very short plot synopsis from IMDb. The spirit of an ancient evil queen possesses the body of a young anthropological student who then goes on a murderous rampage. That, again, that doesn't really scratch the surface of this one. So I'm trying to remember where I actually heard about this. It was on, I think it was Bad Movie Bible YouTube channel. I think there was a video about Terminator ripoffs. And this was one that showed up, and I'm what the hell is this? Just the scenes that were shown, it was so fascinating. I'm I kind of need to see this. And immediately I was thinking Lady Battle Cop is going to be something silly like that, but the chaos of this one is real. I don't even know where to start. We have this weird opening and we're introduced to vagina eels or snakes or something. I'm not even kidding. There is this evil queen sorceress thing, and she puts a curse on this dude, and we flash forward into the future, and she possesses she possesses the anthropological lady.
You just can't pronounce anthropologist. She just says it about 3 different times. Yeah.
I just can't even. But yeah, she possesses this lady to go after the great-granddaughter of the man that turned her down for, I don't even know. But this essentially is almost like a beat-for-beat Terminator ripoff with Hot Sexy Lady as the Terminator with all this weird other stuff, including the vagina snakes and eels. Oh boy. Okay, we'll mix things up a little bit. Lindsay, what did you think of this very weird movie?
Stunned, I think, more than anything else. As soon as the vagina eels showed up, I was oh, this is a time when women just locally house eels in their vagina. I used to call them snakes, but Scott corrected me, so they actually, and I checked them out. I just watched a bit before, and oh no, they are eels. This is a weirdness I'm a little bit more used to when I'm watching Schlock. Weird cut scenes, weird intro scenes, a lot of padding that is interesting, weird ADR, weird dubbing, plots that go nowhere, pick up, start again, go nowhere again, and then by the third act, oh, we are just doing Terminator. It takes a few detours to get there, but this is a schlocky movie I am much more comfortable just giggling with it. It reminded me a lot of Raw Force, which I think is another Indonesian schlock spectacular, with cannibals, monks on an island, and people trying to round kick jeeps. It's amazing, and questionable acting and even worse dubbing. But yeah, I was a lot more just comfortable in this because I knew exactly what I was getting, and it did not disappoint.
It really doesn't disappoint. Bede, you've become quite fascinated with this film now that you've seen it.
Marcy, I saw this movie a couple of weeks ago, and it has not left my mind ever since, which is very rare. Usually it's the greatest movies of all time have that effect on me, or the worst movies of all time have that effect on me. So, Lady Terminator is an enigma of a film. There is ripoffs, then there's this blatant plagiarism going on in this movie. And I am surprised that the makers behind this movie weren't just straight up sued by James Cameron.
Well, to be fair, if he was too busy suing Shock and Dark to worry about this one. So
yes.
Or Terminator 2, as it was also called, before Terminator 2 actually came out.
Indeed.
Yeah, I actually thought it was Italian, then I realized, this is Indonesian. Oh, Indonesia's got game for ripoffs. Yeah, I mean, I know I ranted at Bede for about 15 minutes on a train once after a screening, and I can't remember if I had been drinking. Bede, unfortunately, gets me every time I've been drinking, which I do apologize. I'm not actually that drunk. It's just every time I encounter Bede, I am a few wines in. So I may have ranted about vagina snakes for about 15 minutes and him just looking at me going, what? So yeah, there's a background to that story. This is before he was involved in this episode. So
that's what got you. You were like, vagina snakes, eh?
Well, but that's the thing, Marcy. Like the first 10 minutes of this movie kind of set up this, and I have it here, the Queen of the South Sea, who's this like ancient sex goddess, who basically has sex with men and uses the eels in her vagina to, I guess, bite off their penises and then kill and get their essence. And then, of course, she
make them orgasm to death at the same time, which is a very confusing thing. But yeah,
right?
Yes,
yeah, she's very Anna Amatoff from GoldenEye in that way.
Yeah, yes, and then of course she meets a man who, like, she has sex with him, then he manages to get the eel out of her vagina, which somehow, because all of her power is in that eel, and of course she decides to use the last remaining of her power to curse him and say, I am going to take revenge on your great-great-great-great-granddaughter 100 years from now. So she's very specific. Instead of
specific.
Instead of like using the last of her powers to kill the guy just right then and there, she just like leaves him, goes into the sea, hibernates, and then of course the anthropology student stumbles across her while looking for, I believe, Atlantis. And then she possesses her body, and at this point I'm like, didn't you lose your powers? You still have powers. What is going on here?
Just a note, anthropologists do not go hunting for Atlantis. That is not something an anthropologist does.
Yes, but she does in this movie.
She does in this movie, but I just want to be very aware. That is not what an actual anthropologist is. They study actual civilizations that now exist. Not.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, you know what? It's not, now that I think about it now, it's not actually Atlantis she's looking for. She is looking for, I believe, and I could be wrong, so please forgive me if I am, I believe she's looking for the city in which the Queen of the South Sea came from.
Maybe I can't remember, because I don't feel like it explained it.
Yeah, I think she is, because she goes to see that the older guy to talk about the Queen of the South Sea.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But it's funnier if it's Atlantis.
Yeah, I know. But then, of course, she gets possessed, and then then from there, it literally becomes a scene-for-scene remake of Terminator, but with most of the people that she kills, she either still has sex with them and uses her vagina eel to eat them, but wasn't the eel taken out of her vagina? How is it still happening? And also, she loves shooting people in the dick.
Yeah.
Yeah, good for her.
And of course, I love the tagline for this movie. She mates, then she terminates. I mean, I don't want to give we'll get for the rest of the movie, but I have so many questions about this movie.
Scott, what do you think of this movie? Sorry, we've kind of drowned you out a little bit.
No, it's fine. I got about halfway through the film. I mean, you should see my notes. I don't tend to write things in all caps very often, but there are so many lines that are in all caps followed by laughing emojis in my own notes. So I'm the only one that's going to read them. And I got halfway through and my brain suddenly went, I know what this is now. This is someone that watched Terminator and Big Trouble in Little China and went, I can do that. And no, they couldn't. Because like so Big Trouble in Little China-esque. But like Bede says, if none of it makes any fucking sense. I mean,
you are spot on with that, though. It does have that Big Trouble in Little China feel.
That opening bit where they were talking about the book, I don't know if this was just me, but at multiple points in this film, I felt like this happened, and maybe it was just I wasn't paying enough attention. I don't know, but it felt like they would do this thing where they would start talking and giving you exposition, and then a character would go, "Ah, yes, that thing there that I will now explain. It makes sense now." I was like, "Sorry, what? Let me turn it up. I missed that. Turned it all the way up to 100." It's like they deliberately obfuscated any part of dialogue that would actually explain what was going on. Like, nah, nobody cares. We've got women with their tits out. No one's paying attention to the dialogue.
I mean, that's probably why I didn't pay attention to the dialogue.
There is a lot of
There's a lot of weirdness.
Or is there the first two guys she encounters on the beach, and I think she is naked, walking along to the beach, and there's a line, I swear it was like, "Oh, I always get sloppy seconds." But then he kind of goes, "But I like sloppy seconds." I'm just like,
yes.
What is happening? Like, yeah, it's such a weird line. And I'm like, that was 80 yard with another guy's dialogue after the first line. And I'm just like, okay, that is, yeah.
What a line to have in a movie.
And then to double down on I'm like, wow.
There are so many lines from this film that could be quoted.
You got milk? What is it? Okay, the scene at the bar I need to like dissect.
Go for it.
Oh god.
Okay. So you have the I guess he's the Michael Biehn character, but he's just a normal cop who works too hard and needs to go and drink more with his mates. And then it flashes back to when he meets his first wife, who you don't really know what happens to. You just know that they're not together anymore. And he's very sad about it. But these two drunk guys coming in and hassling her, and then all of a sudden he steps in, he goes, "Leave him alone," and they say something like, "Oh, what do you got, milk?" And it's just like, wait, what? And then he just beats them up and they leave, and then they start talking. It is one of the most weirdest scenes I've seen in a movie, and I love it because it has nothing to do with anything that happens in the rest of the movie at all.
I'm not joking. I rewound and rewatched that scene 3 times because that scene, I'm giving an award for the fastest expositionary dialogue I've ever heard in my life. Because those guys come in and cause trouble. He then steps in and starts punching them. And then these 2 random people in the background join in. And I thought, oh, that makes a change. They're showing that everyone in the bar doesn't tolerate this. And then in a speed of about 2.5 seconds, we get, "Hey, Tubbs, hey, you, hey, man, you're a cop, right? Yeah, I'm a cop. Yeah, we're detectives, right? I'm going to sit over there. I'm going to talk to you. Hello, says the poshest woman I've ever heard. And my brain just went, oh, what just happened? Oh, just fucking goes.
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's like the movie speeds
like
up. Like the movie just speeds up. It's like, oh shit, we've got something boring. We need to do it 1.5 or 1.8 speed. And then we'll just go back to when the tits are out again. And it's just like, okay, this is what you're doing now?
There was a lot more time at parts spent on her seduction of men than there were dialogue. Because I've watched this a few times because I felt like I missed so much. And then I realized, no, that's just how the movie is.
Yeah.
And like Bede said, how did she get the vagina eel back?
Yeah,
the vaginal eel was always there. She never lost it.
Wondering if she is the eel. And that, like, the first woman we saw was just another one that they possessed. But then that doesn't make any sense either because the guy had the eel. So this is like a new eel. There's
was
no
it
sense.
like...
Did her vagina just basically, like, just eats people and she already had... And the eel has nothing to do with the vagina eating.
But it turns into a knife.
It does.
Yeah.
And the knife becomes useless as the movie goes on.
So I don't get any of it. And I don't understand why this is the whole plot point in order to rip off Terminator. They even do like the police like shootout thing.
Yep.
And I don't know if it's, I don't know, this movie was like a really weird fever dream, but did that whole sequence go really fast?
Well, that was kind of like the funny thing about this movie, and what makes it so enjoyable is that the action set pieces, even though, yes, it's clearly ripping off Terminator, are actually pretty well done. Like, it's really solid action sequences throughout this film. But also, we got to remember the lead actress, not the Lady Terminator, the woman, the great granddaughter that she's stalking, she's also a pop singer in the world of this movie.
She is, but it sort of seemed like she was in like a pop star competition as well, because there was a whole bunch of. I got the feeling she was in like a idol kind of competition almost, and she was just getting famous. So when he goes, "What's it like being famous?" "Oh, I'm not famous yet." Wink. She's very coy. I actually really enjoyed her in the movie a lot.
"I hope you'll be famous someday soon." It's like, hang on, you're interviewing her. She's famous now. What are you talking about?
That script, the script for this movie had nobody. It was just draft one that was put to screen.
Oh no, it feels like they took AI back to 1988, got them to do the translation, and then went back again. It's got a very whatever that thing's called, sensibility to it. I'm just like, what is happening?
It doesn't make any sense.
I'm pretty sure they got AI to dub over the voices of the main actor as well.
Oh yeah.
Because honestly, some of his delivery, it does give me some hilarious laughs though. One of my favorite ones, because it just caught me off guard so much, is when, I think it's during the police scene, he gets her to run and her high heel breaks and she's like, "Oh, my high heels, shut up and run." I was drinking at the time and it's like, it's gone. It's all over the wall now. What's that?
What are some other quotes that you wrote down, Scott? Because I didn't write down quotes because I was too busy just laughing, and then I missed about 3 lines.
I wish I took notes. I don't normally take notes because I feel like they're in my head, but then they're definitely not. And sorry.
I know one thing. It's like they straight up like copy a line from the original film with the cop character. Max literally says, "Come with me if you want to live."
Yes, he does.
I think
There's
snorted.
a couple of lines like that. Because later in the film, one of them says, and they don't quite get it right, but it's close enough. They say, "If it bleeds, it dies." So it's like, oh, we're getting a Predator reference in this as well. It's like, there's quite a lot of Schwarzenegger references throughout the film. But you said about the quotes. It's right after that one, we get his friend die, Jack, and he's there like, "Jack," with that amount of emotion, and then he turns around and he's like, "Forget the damn shoe," and it's like, hang on, you have more emotion about her forgetting her shoe than the guy that just died in front of you. And this continues throughout the rest of the film. So many people die and the main character's just like, "No."
And the interesting thing is the granddaughter, I believe her name was Erica, like her mentor is the older man we saw earlier in the film. He has the knife and he is going to be the one who's going to take down the Lady Terminator, and he fails spectacularly and just gets shot multiple times in the dick. And,
do you know what?
His character was useless too. So go ahead, Scott.
No, because like I really enjoyed that sequence because he, for a brief moment, was bulletproof as well, and they seem to be having this like magic duel. And again, the Big Trouble in Little China vibes. That's when it sort of came through. But I thought once we get to the end of the film, not to spoil it, but given how she is actually defeated, he could have done that. If he just had the knife instead of the jewel, he could have just magicked it at her. Film's over. It makes no sense why the one person who actually knew what they were fighting wouldn't have just done that. It just, like you say, this script is just magical.
That sums up the movie, though, as a whole. It doesn't make any sense, but it makes all the sense. And I got to give it credit for just being insane and not making any sense, but still ripping off Terminator extremely a lot. And it doesn't apologize for it at all.
No, I give it credit. I give Bede agree with Bede. The action is actually still pretty solid. It's never boring. Like, yes, I got a bit bored through Lady Battle Cop. Even something like Shocking Dark or Bruno Mattei's Terminator 2. That movie is largely boring except like 5 different moments where you're like going, oh, he's getting sued by James Cameron any minute. Like, they've just literally just put aliens in this now, and now the Terminator's just shown up, and there's a character called Sarah Connor, and you're like, he's getting sued. But this one generally, even though it makes no sense, it rushes past things really quickly. You're never not entertained. So yeah, that's what I will say. What it's doing, I was never not entertained by this movie.
Yeah.
But the thing is, though, and I think it's weird. It's a movie that makes no sense whatsoever, but I really enjoyed it because of that. Because how it tries to tie in with this Queen of the South Sea legend with Terminator, it's so bizarre how it tries to tie it all in together. It feels like 2 completely different movies that were just strung together. Like, it started off being one movie. They probably were making a movie just on her, and then we're basically like, oh, this movie Terminator came out a few years ago. Let's just basically do that for the rest of the movie. But I will give this film credit because it like saw the ending of the original Terminator. It was like, we need to escalate this a lot more. So they throw in tanks, helicopters, and they also have the policeman's like friends from New York fly all the way from New York to join in the final battle, including one who has the most epic mullet I have seen in anything lately. And it's spectacular. And then, of course, like, she gets Lady Terminator gets badly injured, and it becomes a full-blown horror movie at this point because she basically becomes demonic looking and is at the point of not stopping at all to kill the girl. And this movie just makes me speechless at times when I think about it.
I also have to give this movie credit because I think it has it helped cinema along in a way that it never knew that it could, because I genuinely think the romance between Max and the girl that he's trying to protect inspired Anakin and Padme in the prequels with the dialogue that they have. Because some of the lines that they say to each other and then immediately just fall in love. I'm like, I've seen this before. George Lucas must have seen this and thought, I've got a winner here. Because some of the dialogue is like, damn you, can't you see I'm crying for you? What?
I think spot on. I think George Lucas was inspired by Lady Terminator and that romance.
He watched that Lady Terminator and thought, you know what line's missing? Max should hate sand because it's dry and coarse and not soft rough. Rough. I can't remember the exact line. But it's not as soft as Padme. Like that is still one of my favorite lines of dialogue, just for the wrong reasons. But the Christensen never had a chance of actually delivering those lines well. But it is it's entertaining. I mean, you can mock it, you can do whatever, but you remember it. It sticks in your brain way more than any other movie has. Better movies that should have a right to stick in my brain. I'm still thinking about Lady Terminator. So there is something there.
And also like how it replicates certain scenes from Terminator, like the scene in the original Terminator where the Terminator's had its eye injured. So it picks up. They redo that in this version too, but it doesn't make sense because her eye is just scarred up, like her face, but she just takes the eye out, cleans it, and just puts it back in. That's all she does.
How else are they going to do it when she's not a cyborg?
And also, like I said earlier, the dagger, which is meant to be, the eel that was taken out of her, turned into dagger form, it becomes useless in the end.
It doesn't make any sense.
It's not meant
to. I thought she was chasing that down so she could get her power back. Nope. Clearly doesn't care about that dagger at all because it's useless against her.
One of those things.
I also have to add, because you mentioned the military guys, that its contribution to pop culture continues because they all die. Spoiler alert. They don't contribute anything other than explosions and a whole sequence that feels like they suddenly swapped to a G.I. Joe film, complete with a Yo Joe hand pump moment. But when the first one dies, I couldn't help but laugh because his name is Snake. And they go, Snake!
Oh, shit!
And I was like, okay, yeah, that's another thing they've inspired. Because it's before Metal Gear Solid.
Oh, I just clicked to that. I didn't even click it when I was watching the movie. Oh my god, that's amazing.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know how else to explain this movie other than it really is an enigma.
People need to watch it.
That
It is, yeah.
Yeah, this needs a 4K release, like
Yes.
ASAP.
Yes.
I think I am going to actually write to Tubi and be like, can you put this on the Tubi platform? Because we kind of need to do it for the Tubi Tuesdays.
Yes.
Although I am tempted to bring us all back together in a few months to do a commentary for this movie. Because
Yes.
I don't know how else we can. What else we could do? It would be the perfect. I think it'd be the perfect follow-up podcast to this episode.
Indeed.
We
But
can.
yeah, go. So go ahead, Scott.
I
Sorry.
was just gonna say we can take turns saying the dialogue and seeing how much better just us random four can do it. Because I swear that whole like monologue that Max has, where he's trying to tell us what happened to his first wife, it's delivered with the same energy as somebody that just remembered they left the oven on at home, and I was just like, I'm struggling to watch this. This is painful.
I love the way you describe it. We'll have to do our own dubbed version of Lady
Yes.
Terminator.
Yeah, do a script reading or something.
Yes. But two more
God.
things I wanted to bring up.
Yes.
The Lady Terminator herself, Barbara Ann Constable, like her dubbing is not great, even though she is an English-speaking actor. Like her dubbing is not great. But I will say this though, when she actually goes in full Lady Terminator mode, I actually thought she was pretty awesome and actually came across as quite intimidating. And based on like the things I've read, is that she actually did her own stunts and did the action set pieces herself. And also, this was her first and only movie because she thought this was a movie that was only ever going to be seen in Indonesia, not seen anywhere else. But of course, she clearly did not know better. But also, the director of this movie, and I'm probably going to butcher the director's name, Jut Jali. And if I butchered your name, please forgive me. Like, he's directed a film that I haven't seen, but I've heard about, and it's actually considered a classic in Indonesian horror, and that's a film called Mystics in Bali. I've heard like it's like quintessential Indonesian horror. But then I'm like looking, he's also done another kind of rip-off movie called Satan's Bed, which says here that it borrows elements from the Nightmare on Elm Street series.
May have to watch it.
Yeah, I mean, Indonesian movies are famous, like Italian and Indian cinema, for ripping off other movies.
Oh yeah.
I know there's like a Rambo ripoff called Rampo, and they say Rampo like about 15 times in a minute, and it's hilarious because it's like, thank you, Rampo, thank you, da-da-da, Rampo, it's over there, Rampo. They say his name like, I've only seen the first 15 minutes, and it's insane. There's so many explosions. Canon used to film there a lot because they had the resources to do it. It was cheap because it was Canon, and probably like not paying someone. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff to discover within Indonesian cinema, especially if you love Italian and a lot of some Indian movies, because they actually they are actually very good at action, and that is carried on for when I'm blanking on the name guy who did Gareth. Who did the raid? Gareth.
Oh, Gareth Evans.
Gareth
Evans. Yeah.
Thank you. When Gareth Evans went over there, and they had this whole thing of just like, yep, we're ready to go. We've got some of the best martial artists. Let's go. We're going to make one of the greatest action movies of all time. I think, yeah. And so, yeah, they've got kind of the bones to have a really good industry, and the action is actually really good. And Lady Terminator is actually really hot. She's she looks daunting. She looks powerful. She looks strong. She's an anthropologist, and I really liked her in the role. I thought she was actually, the dubbing is atrocious, but she as a presence on screen is really good.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Her presence is definitely very good. And yeah, the dubbing, meh. But I could see Lady Terminator being a good DLC on a Mortal Kombat game.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think
I
so.
will say as well, like, it's one thing for the action, like in terms of the like shootouts to be good, but what stuck out to me was how good the car chases were. The fact that they had a helicopter, the fact that when the helicopter went down and then she did turn into that weird zombified version of her, it all looked good, which considering the rest of the film surprised me. The pyrotechnics were really good. The prosthetic makeup was really good. And you just think they were capable of this all of those years ago. And it just, no one ever kind of made use of it until much more recently. And it's kind of sad in that regard.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of that stuff actually does really look good. It makes me wonder, did all the budget go to just that and they forgot about the rest of the movie?
But to be fair, those are the important things, because I always get sad when someone's trying to do an action movie and then they don't put the money into the stunts, into the practical effects, to the pyrotechnic kind of things. And yeah, the dubbing could be better, but there's as someone who does love schlocky Italian movies, they do the exact same thing, by the way, but they never put the money into actually the stunts. They just got a guy to kill himself by crashing in and blowing them up, and then hopefully that guy didn't die, kind of stunts. This feels a little bit more professional, but yes, so I'm more inclined to like it because you can tell they put the money into the right things, and I just get to enjoy the weird script and just go, this makes no sense, but I'm enjoying myself. Yeah,
they definitely put the money into those particular things and didn't worry about much anything else. But I think if this were any different, it wouldn't be as enjoyable, because I don't know what it is. That dubbing, as horrendous as it is, just endears this movie even more.
It just adds to the insanity of the movie, Marcy.
It adds to the weird charm that Lady Terminator has.
It's almost like a dream logic, and I like it.
Yeah, very much.
It's definitely a fever dream.
Yes.
Yeah, it's absolutely a fever dream. And yes, highly recommend people try and find Lady Terminator if you haven't seen it already. It I would say it's kind of a more unknown cult classic kind of film, because
I don't know. I was talking to Dirk from VHUS and Ryan from the New World podcast, and I mentioned it, and they just both pulled out a copy of the DVD. So there is a DVD out there of it, and they both were very well aware of it. So, but it is definitely got a cult following. And if anyone's going to know the movie, it's going to be Dirk from VHUS.
Shout out right there.
Yeah, I mean that in the nicest way, Dirk. You know it, but yeah, you have that movie.
Well, I am glad that this is kind of a cult movie, because it deserves to be. It is one of the weirdest things I'm probably ever going to see, and I see a lot of weird stuff.
So this is why, Marcy, here in Australia, the Astor Theatre should play this movie.
They should.
Absolutely.
It should be a double with Terminator.
Or even like here in Australia, because we have, the Melbourne International Film Festival or Monster Fest. Like every now and again, like Myth in particular likes to do these kind of weird retrospective kind of series on stuff. They should actually do a retrospective on rip-off movies and put this as the highlight of the festival, along with the movie I watched for Junesploitation on Rip-Off Day, which is Satan, which is basically the Turkish scene-for-scene remake of The Exorcist, and it literally is the exact same movie, just set in Turkey.
That means they can play Abby, which is I'm so blanking on everyone's name. A really great exploitation director's blaxploitation version of The Exorcist, which apparently is
is it William Girdler who directed?
William Girdler, yeah. I was trying to think Buffet, and I'm like, no, that's not the right director.
Is that the one that they weren't able to release? Or
because Universal said they released it very briefly, and then Universal said, absolutely not. No way are you releasing this. We will sue you. And then they quickly retracted the movie, and it's very hard to find now.
Yeah, I'm surprised that didn't happen with this movie.
Oh, they don't think they showed this in the States.
I could be found on YouTube, Abby, to say.
Thank you for that.
Thank you very much. I would still like a Blu-ray. Thank you.
Yes.
It's different, but it's not happening. I mean, yeah, there's rip-offs is kind of like this amazing genre, and there as a remake there is homages, and then there's a straight rip-off which is Lady Terminator, and it's amazing.
Yeah,
it's funny because I struggle to call this a straight rip-off given how absolutely off the walls crazy it is. But it is a straight rip-off, and like Bede said, it's a shot-for-shot remake in certain bits. But then in other bits, it's a completely different film, and that alone makes it worth watching just to see this crazy meshing of two different films that have had no attempt whatsoever to make them actually a cohesive film. And that's what you're either going to really like it or you're going to really hate it, or in my case, both.
Yeah, it's kind of like Ninja Terminator from Godfrey Ho. Let's just put two freaking different movies together and see what happens. And it doesn't make sense, but you're all the better for it.
Well, that also for the fact that they literally got another movie and just edited it into the movie.
In this case, we have two different we got two different movie ideas. Let's just mesh them together.
Two producers came together, each with a different movie, and they just brought them together, and now we have Lady Terminator.
I think that probably sums it up pretty well.
Exactly.
Yeah, but no, Scott's right. This is a shot, and Bede's right. This is a shot-by-shot remake of the Terminator, except when it isn't, and then when it's not, it's something else completely wild. It is very much these two movies. But no, I enjoyed myself with this. This is a great movie.
It is a must-see, and you'll have a great time. Invite your friends, grab out the popcorn. I feel like this is going to be a regular on movie night rotations.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. And if it ever does pop up on Tubi, it's definitely going to be an episode of the Tubi Tuesdays podcast.
It will have to be. But yeah, I think that wraps us up on the Lethal Ladies double feature. Thank you very much to my three lovely guests for coming on to the podcast. Sorry it's taken so long, and but I think it was worth it because this is a great fun conversation and I've had so many laughs. And as usual, you can find the After Dark podcast on all your podcast streaming platforms and YouTube, and we're on Twitter and socials. Just check out the link tree, which I think is linktr.e/After Dark Network. Blah, blah. And blah, blah, I'm just going to pick someone. Scott, where can people find you if they want to check out your podcast and stuff?
On Instagram, you can find us on Action Addicts. On Twitter, you can find us at Addicts Action, because someone already nicked my name and then have done nothing with the account, which annoyed me greatly. But yeah, just find us there and see what we're up to. I recently launched a website, so you can find us on actionaddictsnetwork.com if that's easier for you.
Excellent. And congrats on launching the website. I saw that announcement the other day. Lindsay, where can people find you and your podcast?
You can find me at Schlock and Awe 1 on Twitter and Instagram. Someone also has the Twitter Schlock and Awe and has never used it, so I'm Schlock and Awe 1. And yeah, the show's on all the pods. And yeah, if you want to follow me personally, it's just Reading Geek on Twitter and Instagram.
Excellent. And Bede, where can people check you out?
Well, if people want to find me, they can find me on my Twitter page at twitter.com/Bede Jermyn, or my Letterboxd account at letterboxd.com/Bede Jermyn. And of course, you can find all my work and all the other podcasts that I co-host with you, Marcy, over at the Super Network. And also you can follow my solo podcast, Bede vs. the Living Dead, on all podcast streaming services everywhere. And as well as follow the official Twitter account of that at twitter.com/BedeVSTLD.
Awesome. And I felt like I didn't need to add in the Super Network stuff because I got you here. So
yes. Well, that is true. Yes.
Yes. Oh, well, I guess my personal accounts are all under Super Marcey, so you'll find me wherever. And with that said, that is the end of the episode. Thank you all once again. And remember, everybody, what happens after dark stays after dark. Good night, folks.